Shalom Na'ala viewers. This year is dedicated to the memory of Rachaleah Bas Rav Chaim Tzvi. This week is Parshat Beshalach, and I wanted to talk about the first event that happens to the Jewish people after they cross the Yam Suf, after they cross the Sea of Reeds. So let's begin with chapter Tesvav, or chapter 15, verse 22. ויסע משה את ישראל מים סוף, ויצאו אל מדבר שור, וילכו 3 ימים במדבר ולא מצאו מים. And Moshe caused Israel to travel from the Sea of Reeds, and they went out to the desert of Shur, and they went 3 days. They walked 3 days in the desert, and they did not find water. Verse 23. ויבואו מרסה, and they came to Mara. ולא יכלו לשתות מים ממרה כי מרים הם. And they couldn't drink water from Mara because they were bitter. Al kain kara shmo Mara. Therefore, its name is called Mara, which means bitter. Vayilonu ha'am al Moshe lemor ma nishteh. And the nation complained against Moshe, saying, what are we going to drink? Vayitzak al Hashem. And he cried to Hashem. Vayireo Hashem eitz, and Hashem showed him a tree. Vayishlech el hamayim, and he threw it to the water. Vayimteku hamayim, and the water sweetened. Sham samlo choku mishpat v'sham nisahu. There he established for him a statute, a chok, umishpat, and a judgment, a sort of law, v'sham nisahu, and there he tested him. Vayomer, and he said, Im shama tishma l'kol Hashem Elokecha, if you listen to the voice of Hashem your God, v'hayashar beinav ta'aseh, and you do what's straight in his eyes, v'ha'azanta l'mitzvosav, and you listen, if you bend your ear to all his mitzvos, v'shamartach kol chukav, and you keep all his chukim, all his statutes, kol machala asher samti b'mitzrayim lo asim alecha, ki ani Hashem rofecha. All the diseases that I placed upon Egypt, I will not place upon you, because I am Hashem, your healer. This unit is a unit of Mara, when the Jewish people complained, and Hashem established for them certain laws. Now, there are many questions we can ask about this entire unit, and I'm just going to list some of them that came to mind as I was studying. First of all, in verse 22, it says, Vayasha Moshe, and Moshe caused the people of Israel to travel. Why the strange language? Why doesn't it say the Jewish people traveled? Why does it use a word, vayasa, someone causing someone else to travel? That's number one. The second question, why does the word water and the word bitter come up so many times in the first 2 verses? Another question, what was the purpose of this tree? Why does Hashem tell Moshe to take a tree and throw it into the water? How exactly was the water sweetened? And then, of course, afterwards, where it says Hashem establishes for the people of Israel a statute, a chok, and a mishpat, a judgment, what does that mean? What is a chok? I mean, some of the Chumashim might translate it as statute, but what actually does it mean? It's a sort of law. What is a mishpat? That's a different sort of law. What do these mean? And then in the next verse, Hashem says, if you listen to me, and if you do what's straight in Hashem's eyes, and if you keep the mitzvos, and you observe the chukim, then the diseases I gave Egypt I will not place upon you. Well, what's the difference between each of those laws? What's the difference between listening to God, keeping a chok, keeping a mitzvah, doing what's straight in His eyes? There are different words used for these laws, which means they must mean different things. There are different types of laws. So what types of laws are they? Why are so many different laws mentioned? And then the last question I would like to address is, what is the connection between what happened at Mara, the bitter water which was sweetened, and the laws that Hashem is establishing for the Jewish people? We know they're connected because it's one paragraph, it's one parsha in the Torah. In the Torah, there are spaces between different paragraphs, so to speak, different parshiyot. Sometimes we have longer spaces, sometimes we have shorter spaces, sometimes there are no spaces. And a space signifies we're starting, and then a space at the end, we're ending a new subject. Here we have a space right before verse 22, so we know we're starting a new topic. And then, right after verse 26, we have the next space. So this is one unit. Well then, what's the connection? Like I said, what's the connection between the bitter water, the experience at Mara, and the laws Hashem is establishing for the Jewish people. And of course, I'll just add another question, which is, why is Hashem bringing in the diseases that he gave to Egypt? Why does keeping the laws of Hashem prevent the Jewish people from being smitten the same ways the Egyptians were smitten? So hopefully we'll get to all these questions. And let's see how the Parshanim, how the commentators on the Chumash answer them. We'll begin with Rashi. Verse 22. Vayasa Moshe caused them to travel. Hesiyan bal korcham, he forced them to travel. She'etru Mitzrayim suseim betachshitei zahav v'chasef v'avanim tovos. The Egyptians decorated, they adorned their horses with gold jewelry and silver and precious stones.